Saturday at noon on TNT in State College, Happy Valley. Southern Methodist will be marching in to face Penn State. Penn State favored by 8.5, total of 53.5. Feels like temperature at the moment for during the game is 16 degrees. I believe the average temperature at kickoff for SMU this year was about 72. Now, they did play a cold game in Charlotte. It was about 30 degrees there a couple Saturday nights ago. But this is still going to be another step up in class for them, obviously. They played, Clemson. They played BYU. They lost both those games. They played some other ACC teams. They won. They've got dynamic players. They've got a dynamic quarterback. They've got a really good rushing defense, which is going to be tested big time against Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. And from what we saw in that Penn State offense, if they decide to open it up a little bit like they did against Oregon, what kind of game are we looking at here?
Yeah, I think that the version of Penn State that we saw, that you and I saw in person there in Indy, the Big Ten championship game with that offense, and them actually opening it up and getting the ball to both of those tailbacks and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen in the passing game, getting them the ball in space, your best players and your best athletes in space like that was a huge deal. Them running the football like they did against Oregon definitely made me more optimistic of this Penn State offense. Outside of Tyler Warren, it's really all we've been seeing a whole lot this year. They actually had a couple of receivers that stepped up, made some plays in that game as well. Drew Aller looked as good as he's looked all year. I just think that Colton Nicky's dialed in right now, offensive coordinator, Penn State. He's, new to the team. They're just kind of filling themselves out, finding different weapons, and I definitely think they found something there with getting the ball to those backs in space like that. I think that's something you're going to see in this game as well against SMU. The quick question, SMU, I was trying to think of it. The biggest crowd they've played, they came from the group of five to this is their first year in the ACC. The biggest crowd they've played in front of, I looked it up, was Louisville with like a little over 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost double what they're going to be walking into in Beaver Stadium this weekend on Saturday. And Penn State whiteout conditions as well. This will be the coldest game that SMU. I know it gets, cold in the winter in Dallas too, but nothing like what they're about to face here in State College, Pennsylvania. So that's just something that the emotion of this and the crowd, like SMU on this stage, I'm just curious, how that affects them playing in an environment like this on this stage. Does that affect them at all negatively?
You just never know. You never know how a team's going to respond when they get in that situation. Some teams could fold under the pressure, and then other guys, we like you said, we haven't seen it, so we don't know what kind of player Kevin Jennings is going to turn into. Is he going to turn into, he just blocks out all the noise and he goes out and he balls out? He could, right? But we just have no idea. You got to think Rhett Lashley's going to try to have them prepared for pretty much anything.
Yeah, a lot of these G5 teams too, man, when they get these bigger bowl games, they're on neutral sites with no way near, they're not 108,000 in Happy Valley like there's going to be in this game. But in regards to SMU,
how dare you call SMU a G5?
I'm saying okay, whatever. They have not been in a Power 4 conference until this year. I wasn't calling them a G5. I meant teams that had gone to some of these games in the past.
Yeah.
SMU this year, yes, they're in a Power 4 conference, but they've never played in an environment like this ever. The only environment in the ACC that would even be close to this would be Death Valley and Clemson. And they didn't play there this year. Or maybe Blacksburg and Virginia Tech, and they didn't play there this year. So, but to your point of Rhett Lashley, hell of a coach, man. And as good as it gets on the offensive side of the ball, it's scheming up stuff on offense. And if you haven't watched this team play, the two-headed monster they've got in the backfield with Kevin Jennings and Brashard Smith, they're as good of a 1-2 punch together in the backfield, and excitement that you want to see, the dynamic aspect of them. Jennings has over 3,000 yards passing, got a lot of yards rushing too. But this Brashard Smith, tailback, transferred in from Miami. I think he might have been a receiver at one point at Miami, and Lashley moved into the tailback position. He had over 1,200 yards this year and 14 tutties, averaging about 6 yards a carry, catches the ball well out of the backfield too. The dude's tied for second on the team in receptions and touchdowns. SMU offensively, they don't really have a dominant receiver, by the numbers, but they've got 4 guys that all catch the ball well, all make plays. So that's like, I don't know what's harder to prepare for. Is it harder to prepare for like having one dominant guy and a few role players? Or is it tougher to prepare for the fact that they've got 4 or 5 guys that can all make plays at the receiver position? They've got 2 tight ends that are really good in the red zone, that are both tied for second in the team in touchdown receptions. So they've got about 6 guys. And if you want to count the running back, 7 guys that can all make plays down the field in the passing game. So it will not be an easy offense to prepare for. So, I mean, but also, if you're SMU, they have not seen, and this includes Clemson, they've not seen the type of pass rushers and the type of athletes that they're going to see, like an Abdul Carter or a Kobe King, like the type of athletes that Penn State's going to have. It's going to be rushing off the edge, rushing the passer, able to possibly chase down Kevin Jennings like that. Like, dude, you and I talked about it. When we saw Penn State in person against Oregon, dude, Abdul Carter was like an alien running around. Like, it's like the guy at that size should not be moving like that. And Penn State's got multiple dudes like that can do that. So SMU's got to be able to run the football. They've got to be able to run the ball some. And, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know how SMU's offensive line is going to be able to hold up against Penn State's defensive front. Do you think they can?
Not likely.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
It's not likely.
I'm trying to find a path. I mean, Jennings is going to have to be Superman offensively for them, and the dual threat ability. Like, he's going to have to be borderline Superman, I feel like, for them to be able to have success offensively. Yeah. In the cold it's going to be, in the weather forecast, the way that they're calling for the weather. Like, I don't know how much he's just going to be able to just like sling the ball all over the field. Maybe he can. I don't know.
Yeah, my gut reaction on this game was Penn State in a somewhat of a big game. Take SMU, right? That's my gut reaction until I dove more into, the stats and everything. But what a huge game this is for James Franklin, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he cannot lose this game.
Cannot lose this game. Nope. Agreed. The fan base at Penn State will never. I mean, we were around a lot of the Penn State fans there, man, in Indy for the Big Ten championship game. I mean, most of them that we talked to were, we're happy to be here. James Franklin in big games, James Franklin against top 5, even they're saying it. But good news is for Penn State fans, this is not a top 5 team. And this is not even a top 10 team right now by the rankings. So, I mean, usually these type of games are the ones that James Franklin wins, the ones where he is a pretty prohibitive favorite and that they're supposed to win. These are the games he does win.
Yeah.
So, and on the flip side of it, on the other side of the ball, I mean, SMU's defense, that is what, and the reason why that SMU, like, obviously Rhett Lashley's offense is a big reason why the offense, but like this defense is the reason why that they're eligible and a reason why they're in this playoff. Like, having an exciting offense and all that is great and dynamic playmakers, but the ability and the transformation that they've made on the defensive side of the ball the last 2 years is insane. Some of the numbers here for SMU's defense, they're tied with Oregon at 10th in the nation in total sacks. They're 12th in the nation in tackles for a loss. So obviously that tells you that SMU's done a really good job of wreaking havoc in the backfield this year, of making plays behind the line of scrimmage, getting teams in 2nd and long or 3rd and long. Obviously that's going to help you have a lot of success as a defense. They're 4th in the country in rush defense. They're top 30 in points allowed. Where they're a little susceptible is in the passing game. They're 91st in the country in passing defense. So, but like I always do, I take a look at some things and go, okay, who's the competition that they've played against? And the 3 best offenses that SMU has faced this year, they were Clemson, Louisville, and TCU. They gave up 34 points per game in those 3 games. So, I mean, against the better, deep offenses they faced, they struggled. So, I do think it's a little bit of both. I do think SMU's defense is really good. I think they're a lot better than what probably people realize and what people give them credit for. But I do think that when they do face the better competition, that the defense isn't as good. And they've got one guy, Kobe Wilson, linebacker number 24. Keep an eye on him in this game. He's top 20 in the nation in tackles. And when I caught a few of SMU's games this year, that dude jumped off the page, jumped off the TV, making plays all over the place.
Yeah, one thing people I think they harp so much on the schedule they played and everything, which I mean, we talked about Penn State's schedule. Like they played Ohio State, but other than that, it wasn't exactly murderer's row. But
Right.
one thing people overlook is the fact that like SMU, I mean, obviously, yeah, they played a really easy schedule this year, comparatively speaking, but
Mhm.
you've got to think that that might be somewhat of an advantage because they're not as beat up as a Penn State would be. Same as the Clemson Texas game. I mean, Texas schedule, is what it was, but going through a gauntlet like like Georgia did, like yeah, Kirby was like, we need some time off, and Penn State probably thinking after they played Oregon, yeah, we need some time off. We only get 2 weeks now. SMU, yeah, they played a tough game against Clemson, but before that, they were playing Virginia and Boston College and some teams that aren't as respected as much. You got to think that SMU's weaker schedule can benefit to the fact that yeah, maybe they're a little healthier now.
Yeah, and it could. It absolutely could.
Yeah,
Yeah, another thing that's interesting with this SMU defense is we talked about it going to the ACC championship game. We thought that Clemson was going to be able to run the football against SMU, and they absolutely did not.
yeah.
They shut down Phil Maffa in the run game. So if they can hold up and slow down Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, and I think that too, one thing that I've heard a few other places mention on this, what if Drew Aller actually does get nicked up?
Yeah.
There is no Bo Perbula there anymore. So that could get interesting in a hurry.
Yeah.
I think they've got like a freshman quarterback that was highly recruited, but like I don't think they planned on playing him in this playoff, and now they may have to in this spot. But
Yeah.
is as far as a game pick in this game, I tried to find other angles to try to find a way that I would give out maybe SMU against the spread or maybe SMU pull off the upset. But man, I'm not going to make this harder than it is. SMU's had an incredible year, dynamic offense, dynamic playmakers in the backfield. Defense is better than what people realize, and the numbers reflect that as well. But I just think of some of the competition that they've played against, the better teams that they've played. They've given up 34 points per game in those games on the road in a 100 and something thousand seat stadium in whiteout conditions for a Penn State home playoff game. I just think that Penn State's overall physicality, the atmosphere, the crowd, the weather, all of that combined, I think Penn State wins this game, and I think they cover. I don't necessarily think it's a blowout, but I think Penn State probably wins this game something like I could see it like again, 27, 13 type of game, type of deal. And
Yeah.
I think Penn State wins, think they cover. I think Allen, Singleton, offensively, Kotelnicki, all of that, I think that they'll get it done.
Yeah, I think we all want to see SMU do well in this game. We want to see them win. Like everyone loves to root for the underdog. You want to see them make it a good game down into the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure if that's going to happen either. And we were talking about a team thinking back to that Duke game, 6 turnovers.
Yeah.
This is a team that gives it away 1.5 times or 1.7 times per game. It's 101st in the country. They got to take care of the ball. They did the same thing against Clemson in the ACC championship game. And then penalties wise, I mean, 130th in the country in penalties per game, 128th in penalties per play, 133. That's second to worst penalty yards per game.
Yikes.
They cannot have turnovers. They cannot have penalties. I just don't know if you can change that all in one game, something that's compounded over the season. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to take Penn State to win. I'm going to take them to cover. I'm with you on the score. Yeah, I like, again, similar to the Texas Clemson game, maybe a 27-10 type game. I think we all want to see it be close, but I'm just not sure that Penn State's going to allow it. So those are our picks in this game.